Innovation, technology, and a young population. I believe these are a part of a recipe that makes a big difference in the trajectory of our economy as a nation. The question is, most times though, what are the skills that our young people need, and people in general need, to participate in the global space? And when we look at technology, sometimes we lack those skills, but I'm excited today to be here at the NTA Foundation, where she is bringing together young people from across the country and giving them the skills that they need so that they can participate on a global scale. My name is Ruth Kulaisi, and this is Womanity. Our guest today is Nthanda Manduwi. Manduwi came to the spotlight in 2017 as Miss Malawi First Princess. Recognized and named among the most inspiring youth and 100 most inspiring women in Malawi, her impact transcends borders. With a Master's of Science in Entrepreneurship, Nthanda explores entrepreneurial opportunities, empowering Africans in the digital age. Today, we catch up with Nthanda at the NTA Foundation Hub. Stay with us. Nthanda Manduwi, welcome to Womanity.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's been a long time coming. From beauty queen to the lady behind bridging the digital divide for the young people here in Malawi. Yeah. Can you quickly tell me what the NTA Foundation gets up to?
Absolutely. So I established the NTA Foundation in 2018. At the time, I was a digital content creator. I was creating content around travel and tourism in Malawi. And there were a lot of young people that wanted to get into the same space, use social media intentionally. Yeah. So I was talking to a few people and I realized the need was so huge that I couldn't do it on my own. So I wanted to create a space where we could do it together, and we have been lucky to have gotten some partners and some donors that have supported our work.
So this here is the hub?
Yes, this is the hub. This is one of our two hubs. So this is our Lilongwe hub, and we have another one in Mangochi.
Okay. Yeah. Tell me what kind of work you get up to here, because as I've said, you're really looking at bridging the digital divide. There's so many opportunities, I believe, when it comes to playing on a global scale. Yes. At the moment, Malawi ndo ang'ono, but the world is big and it's accommodating thanks to the internet.
Connectivity. So at the moment, actually, we're building an e-learning platform. It's called Digital Skills for Africa. So we're actually expanding our work beyond Malawi. So Digital Skills for Africa is an e-learning platform that anybody can just go on, get a course. We're hoping to engage more partners so they can fund the platform so the courses are kind of accessible for free. Okay. So at the moment, we're working with some interns from MUST, actually, I'll get to that are building the system with us, and we're hoping to launch the product. It should be ready by May. We're launching at UNIMA, the University of Malawi. So that's one of our major projects. Another one is we train tertiary level students. So what we've found is that a lot of students, when they're graduating from universities, they don't have the skills required to be able to transition from undergrad into either work or starting a business. So we're trying to prepare them to get ready for work, and I think we have about 8 interns from MUST right now that we're training. So we train them in management skills, advocacy skills, entrepreneurship, creativity, and digital skills. So we're really trying to help them to transition. Either it's up to them whether they want to become entrepreneurs or they want to just work for somebody. We just try to prepare them to think differently, to not go in boma and just be sitting down and put your jacket and just lean back. So we're really trying to change that mindset shift, especially in the first year after graduating from college.
In reality, what's there to gain? Because it's one thing, most times when people think about getting onto the global space, it's mostly social media, right? And at the end of the day, social media does also have its benefits. You can monetize it. But what is the reality really in terms of the benefits that one gets if this is a space that they choose to enter intentionally?
Yes, the digital space, that is. I think it's a huge space. It's a huge world. You can be like on the side that where is the more social entrepreneurship side, and you can be heavy on the tech and really specialize. So it's a vast space, and the opportunities out there are endless. I think we've just recently partnered with the University of Michigan, where we're trying to match people to online jobs in the US. So once we train them, we match them to jobs, and they're able to earn in dollars, which obviously is way more than what they would be earning if they're working in Malawi. So it's really about getting them to think of earning more, think of new ways of earning as well, because where we are as Malawi, we don't really have a private sector. So we don't have many people making even enough money here. Maybe a lot of youth are employed and at home. So we're trying to say, okay, instead of being unemployed at home, this hub is here, funded by the Malawi government with funding from the World Bank. It's free. Come around, you have internet access, you have a device. See what you can do. See what also with our interns, they come on board. One of our big principles is we don't give them a job description. So we say, you're here, this is our work, tell us what you want to do. So they kind of get creative and start to get innovative around that. Yeah.
Okay, some success stories maybe. What's happened so far? Have people actually gotten jobs online, or still this is a dream that we're working towards and we're yet to realize it? What does that look like?
In terms of online jobs, we're still at the beginning of that phase, but in terms of getting jobs, our interns so far we've trained, I think it should be close to 24. Right now we have 8 internally, but I think 16 before that. We have 100% employment rate of the ones that we've had before. Okay. We did have a bit of a challenge when we were doing the Digital Malawi project because we were training underprivileged, we were targeting underprivileged populations. Now in that case, we were training people who had never touched a computer device before, which obviously is very important.
From scratch.
Yes, from scratch. So the amount of work we could teach them within the 3 months that we were training them wasn't as much, and that's we've given that feedback back to the donors to say 3 months is not enough for somebody who is seeing a computer today. To get them to be ready for a job within 3 months is not sustainable. So we need longer trainings, we need more support, but the opportunities out there. For example, I'll give the idea of the master's students who already have ICT degrees. They've come so far, so it's very easy to pivot those onto a career track. That is so much easier because they already have some basic level of education.
Talk about being donor ready, because at the end of the day, for you to be able to do all of this, unless you actually did already have the funds in your pocket, but from what you're saying, you've had donors come in. People want to do good, they want to do well, but at the end of the day, sometimes the dream is actually so big that you need some funds infused into the dream to make it happen. How does one put themselves in a position where they're actually ready? What do you need to have in place? What kinds of documents? Where should you be mentally? But first, let's start with the documents, because I'm sure that's key. Yes.
So I think coming to me from the beginning, I just moved to Lilongwe and I was like, I'm a creative, but I also am a researcher.
From Mangochi. From Mangochi, which is where your family is.
Where my family is.
Yes.
So I'd moved here, I knew nothing about the development sector, I knew nothing about grants. Malawi was the first person who told me that there are grants and you can apply for them, and I was like, what's a grant? And why should I apply for one? So I started looking into financing. So as an entrepreneur, you have options for financing. You can either self-finance, as you've mentioned, if you have the money for it. You can take a loan from the bank, or you can get investors in your business and they get a share of your business, or you can get development grants. Now the way development grants work is they're international development partners. You're looking at the World Bank, the EU, GIZ. They have projects that are intended at developing underdeveloped countries. Now as an entrepreneur, you can position yourself to be a development partner. We are a development partner from an operations standpoint. So these international organizations that have their projects in country. However, when they come in, they do have their requirements because of due diligence. They're not going to just fund anybody because this is public money. It has to be accounted for. So they want to know that you have been in business for a while. So usually there is a year's requirement. One of my biggest advices to young people is, as soon as you have the idea, if you can afford to, first of all, start, but also incorporate, make it legal, because you're going to need that registration document. When they say you should have been in business for 3 years, it's not just word of mouth.
I was running
exactly, because we've lost some grants. We registered 2 years into operations, and so for us to even today's our celebration of 5 years, and to be able to say it's been 5 years, but our documents show that we've been registered for about 3 to 4 years. So then you have to start telling a story. It's so much easier when you just have the papers and it's just check, check, check. I would say I have a really incredible operations team. I don't even know some of the documents that they do. We just registered in the United States about a month ago, and the amount of documentation that went into that. I also understand when people get lazy and they just don't want to do it because it's a lot of work. The documents are crazy. I would say if you can afford to get a lawyer, do get the advice and get them to help you with the documentation, because it is a lot, but that helps you. When you have that paperwork, it's so much easier. Then everybody trusts your structures and they're able to finance and fund you.
Why the States? Because I know we've been seeing a lot of pictures online that you're in the States and you're kind of moving up and down. What's happening there, and why are you registering there? Are you registered here as well?
Yes, we are registered here. We registered here in 2020. So I moved to the United States with the UNDP graduate program.
Officially or for school?
It was an on-the-job training. So it's quite similar to what we do here, actually. So when we were launching our on-the-job training, I realized the UN was also launching their on-the-job training. So I went on their website. I was really trying to see how they were doing it. I was like, okay, let's see how they're doing it. So I applied as, let me just see how they're doing it, you know? And then I was offered a job in New York. So I mean, nobody says no to New York.
Of course.
So I ended up
what
going.
are you doing in New York?
My contract at the moment is done at the moment. So I'm now in a place of transitioning. So I am now going to do my MBA at Michigan State University.
Oh, fantastic.
Yes, I start in August. But then that means that I have a break. So that's when I got a chance to come back home to also restabilize this, because my team is very incredible. But I think there are just some strategic partnerships that possibly I need to handle and engage people in. Yeah. So when I moved to the States, you're asking about why we registered there. So I've been there with the UNTB graduate program for the past 2 years. A lot of people want to invest in Africa, a lot of, especially young professionals. So I live in Manhattan. There are a lot of wealthy young men. I mean, not wealthy, but they're making some money there in finance. And the biggest thing in finance is you have to invest your money, right? So they're looking for places to invest, and Africa is the next space everybody's looking to invest in. But then they don't have data about Africa. So they ask me questions like, what's the status of this in Africa? And I realized we don't have that. We don't. So that's the bulk of the work that we're doing. So we're trying to document who are the entrepreneurs, where should people invest their money? Should it be in agriculture? Should it be in tourism? So we're really in knowledge and trying to cultivate that knowledge for those investors that want to come into the country. Yeah. Now, why incorporating in the US? As you say, this work is a big dream. It's not going to take just me. I have a team of almost 15 that we need to be able to pay. Donors only do so much. There is an opportunity to also resource mobilize directly in the US. So there is companies like, Amazon, Apple, Microsoft, all of them have a corporate social responsibility. So as a US registered company, we are able to resource mobilize there and then be able to bring the money down here. So that's the idea for us registering there.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. So when you head back out, that's clearly what you'll be focusing on as well.
Building partnerships, selling Africa to say there's opportunities. There's a lot of young tech talent here that you can support. Also, it's to their benefit as well, because once we have techies here that can work for them, that can contribute to their work, is for their good. So that's why they invest in this. So the US, when you look at the West, investment-wise, it's tapped out because, everything has been done. But Africa, we look at ourselves as we're poor, but this is the land of opportunity. Nothing has been done. I can look at, I was frustrated because I landed and somebody couldn't use Google Maps. But I told my team, we need to create a course for Google Maps. Because that's an opportunity already. So the opportunities here are endless, and there's so much that we can do.
My name is Nthanda. I am one of the eWork trainees, and I've had a very amazing experience here at NTA Foundation because I am an artist and an illustrator as well. So having this experience and knowledge will help me, and I'm very thankful for NTA Foundation for hosting this amazing training.
It has been an amazing journey being part of this training. I've learned a lot of the importance of using the internet, exposing the digital world. I was one of the entrepreneurs who was stuck in the traditional marketing, but then I think with this training I will use the skills and the knowledge to boost up my business. Thank you, NTA Foundation, for the great opportunity. Looking forward to more opportunities and more training.
When we look at you, you're quite young. Yeah. Do you mind sharing how old you are?
I'm 28.
28, okay. Do you have aspirations to get into the political space as well? Because there's leadership, obviously. As you said, you're a development partner right now, but obviously there's also a higher level. Some would call it a higher level if you enter politics. Others look at development partnership as the higher level. Is that the dream?
Not at the moment, I'll be honest. However, I will say everybody that I've met internationally actually calls me future president of Malawi, which for me, it's not an aspiration that I have. However, because I say leadership is a core to service, right? So so usually my discernment is usually, should I do it? When I'm deciding for myself, should I do it? Am I the best person to do it? Can anybody do this better? So if it ever comes down to it that I'm like, there's no Malawian that can do this better than me, I'm the one, then yeah, you might see me running.
Growing up in Mangwaji?
Yes, Mangwaji.
Did you have a silver spoon in your mouth? Were you middle class? What was your situation there?
Yeah, I would say middle class, maybe a little middle upper for Mangwaji, that is. My parents were both mariners. My mother was a marine captain. My dad was a marine. My dad is a marine engineer. Yes, but I can't say we were wealthy. I think also my parents were very grounded. So we were very, I think when we joke around with my stuff right now, we're like, we were raised to know life. So I think the hard worker that I am right now is because possibly the silver spoon maybe was there, but it wasn't put in my mouth because they were like, you have to work for it. And I learned to work up until now.
Yeah, that's so good. I'm asking that because sometimes people may look at someone and say, you're so detached from what's really happening. Where or what kind of leader would you say you are if you're not fully engrossed in the reality of what the people are actually living through? Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. One of the things, like when I'm with my team here at the office, they always have to stop me. Don't do it. If it's a chair that has to be picked up, I'm going to pick it up. Because that's the way I was raised. My parents were, they had their jobs, but they also had businesses. My mom had a clothing store in Salus, in Izenzo, my dress and all of that. I would be in the store, and this is us, all of that. Because we were taught to be a part of everything. So even up until now, if it's, we're setting up for this, I will be there. It's why I was saying we're having an event right now. And I'm feeling so bad because I want to be, even though they told me they've got everything under control, I'm a very involved leader. And I think there is hands-on. There's no leadership where you can just sit around and just be like, okay, I'll just come and make the speech. At least I'm not that leader. And I think where we are as Malawi, we can't afford to be those people that just sit back.
Young, beautiful, talented, your brain's going. How do you handle yourself with the opposite sex? Because I know that usually that's a thing that people look at young people, especially girls that also enter powerful rooms, and have conversations with powerful people, and they're like, okay, do we trust that this person is actually going in there and using their brain, or are they using their beauty? How have you handled yourself? What decisions have you made for yourself? Because I know that there's always that battle, even within self, to say, okay, how do I approach this space?
Yeah, absolutely. I think also growing up, especially as a younger woman, I would say maybe there would be people who would try to take advantage. And it's being aware of it. I mean, I've been in situations, I wouldn't name names. I walk into an office, it's for a business meeting, I was doing my travel show and I'm looking for sponsorship around that. I get in the show, I'm in the room, I'm welcomed, I'm invited. And then the man steps forward to hug me and I'm like, this is not a situation for a hug. Why is
the handshake space?
Exactly, this is the handshake space. Why is there a hug in this situation? So especially as a young woman, you have to learn to get in those spaces and say, okay, am I going to do this or am I not? And you also know the prices to pay. For me, I really believe in my integrity. So I'm like, it would never feel nice for me to get anything in life if I don't feel that I deserved it. So everything that I have done, everything that I've achieved, to the best of my knowledge, has been on merit. And I would love for it to remain. So I am not judging anybody who chooses to go a different path. But in my case, everything I have gotten has been on merit.
How have you been able to assert yourself? Or shall I say, give us a quick lesson on asserting self in these spaces as well?
Yeah. I think clarity of thought is important. When you get into spaces, people really want to know that you know what you're talking about, So usually I even tell my team, I'm like, when you are speaking, it's you're telling the story. Don't worry about when anybody else is speaking because it's your story to tell. So tell your story. I think I was telling my interns, they were presenting their end of program presentations. It's your story to tell. So in every space, I have to do a lot of research and reading. I really have to know. You're talking about digital transformation. When I got into the digital transformation space, I was an economist at the time. I didn't know anything about digital transformation. I went and started the master's.
So you say economist because you studied?
I studied economics in undergrad, At Chanko. Yes. So at the time, I was like, I don't know anything about the digital space apart from digital content creation. So when we got this grant, I immediately enrolled in a master's in entrepreneurship at Must, and I did a thesis on digital transformation. So right now, I can actually call myself a specialist because I needed to know. I can't just walk into a room and not know what I'm talking about. So I actually need to be able to say, we're closing the digital divide, and this is what the data says on the ground. So people really respect that.
I'll ask lastly on starting early, which is something that you already alluded to say the moment you have the idea, go in and register it. But then how many years should we say you've been in the digital space?
About 6 years now.
And before that, on social media?
I was already using social media for about 10 years.
Yes. Yeah. And I would think sometimes we don't appreciate looking back and counting those years. What I've realized about our friends in the West also is every little achievement and every move. They don't call it a diploma, it's an associate degree. Everything has, yes, and it is counted.
My staff, I'm like, massage the story, tell it better.
Do tell me a bit about that, starting early and branding self,
Yeah.
because starting how you have branded yourself really accounts for everything that you've done. You don't leave any stone unturned, and you actually tell your story, every bit of it.
Important, yeah. So starting early, I started blogging in 2013. At the time, I was seeing Kenyan bloggers online. I think there was Joy Kendi, there was Sharon Mundia. They were blogging and they were creating content about lifestyle and travel. And I was like, this is fun. Nobody's doing this for Malawi. So after Miss Malawi, because I had a bit of an audience, I took the audience with me and we started. I think I even had a TV show on Zodiak, a little bit about Malawian culture and tourism. And the digital space, I started in that space. I think for me, whenever I have an idea, I want to pursue it because I think life is short. That's my principle. Life is short, it runs out. So if I have an idea and if I can pursue it and if I can afford and I can get support around me to pursue that idea, I think you should. So that's my principle. So even with my staff, like they'll tell me, I mean, because they're younger, but I'll be like, okay, you have a business idea. I think one of my ICT guys has a name, he had called it Logtech. And he's like, I was like, okay, tell me about Logtech. He's like, well, it's something I want to build. And I told him, oh, I've bought the website for you. And he's like, wait, right now? And I'm like, yeah, because let's go, like right now, you know?
Yeah.
Let's go. I'm forgetting the other question you asked. Branding self.
Yes, because I realized that when you tell your story, you're not just saying, well, I've been doing this for 6 years. When I first heard about what you were doing, it was over 6. I think you had said way more than 10 years.
Yes, now we're getting close to like 12, I think. Yeah, so in terms of telling the story, actually, I was just chatting with my dad about that because my dad, as a parent, he's worried. So it's like, do you have to announce every move? Do you have to like say, I've landed in Malawi? And I'm like, I announced that I'm coming to Malawi before I landed in Malawi. And as soon as I posted that I'm coming back to Malawi, I was at the UN yesterday. I got an invitation from the UN and they called me and they're like, oh, we're coming to drop off a letter to speak at the UN on Monday. And I'm like, that's good because I'll actually be in the country. So it's about knowing that and creating the right story. It's not just about sharing any and everything. You have to know what story you're telling. So I was telling my dad, I'm like, there is a story I'm building up. So first I need to know, people need to know I'm coming back to Malawi, you know. I'm going to be in the country for so long. We're here to do ABC. So it's about support. So other people will be mad about you sharing too much or whatever, but your supporters are going to come on board and they take the journey with you. So for me, personal branding is very important. People need to know what I believe in, what are my core values, what are my businesses. And also, I think our websites, Abby, one of our interns, works on our websites, and I was telling her that every website must have a call to action. So there must be an end. Our end for us is how you can support our work or how you can benefit from our work. So anything you read on any NTA Foundation website ends with how you can work with us or how you can benefit from our work. So every story that I tell, you will see that at the end of it, there is a call to action. There is a next step. There is something that you need to do. And it's very important in branding. Yes, so people now start to say, I've read all of this, because we're self-serving people at the end of the day. So everybody will be like, okay, I've read your achievements. The next thing is, how can I gain from that? So I'm like, I'm offering you that gain. Come to the hub. Let's teach you. Come along with me.
Yeah, so good. What do you want to have your narrative as at the end of everything? I mean, we don't know if you'll be president yet.
We don't know that.
But what's the core thing? Because at the end of the day, there's a line that drives us. What is that for you?
Professionally, honestly, I'd love to see a Malawi that's developed and better. And it's sad when people ask me, what does Malawi export? And I literally am like, it's a difficult question in spaces. You know, everybody, Kenya is speaking about this. Nigeria is speaking about this.
I'll give you a list.
Yeah. We have, but it's just like
it's not on the large
exactly.
scale,
Like,
right?
what's Malawi? And another one is what's Malawi's GDP? And you're like, ugh. You know, so this is difficult.
Yeah.
So that's what I want to change. I want to change our story because one of the things when I was working with UNDP, we did an ICPE of Malawi, and one of the key findings was that Malawi is very policy rich and implementation poor. We have brilliant people. We make brilliant policies. One of the things people have said is Rwanda came and took our policies and went to implement. If you look at Rwanda, they're doing incredibly well. But we're here, we make the policies, and I think it ends at we make the policy because it's donor funded, and then because the donor funding kind of ends at policy maybe making. So we don't continue. We don't go ahead to implement that. So that's what we're trying to change with these young people. That we know. When I was in a meeting with the UN yesterday, and I taught them, I'm like, before I left 2 years ago, we were having this conversation. I'm back. We're having this conversation. We need to implement. We know what's wrong. We've talked about curriculum change. We need to move. Let's change our curriculum. Let's train our young people to not graduate and go sit at home. They have to start a business. So for me, professional legacy, I would love, whether that's politically or as a development practitioner or however that looks like, that's in Malawi that I want to see. Personally, I want to, no matter how much I achieve, I still want to be seen as a woman with a lot of love, with a lot of care. and to have changed the lives that I changed. I don't know, maybe my stuff will say differently about me, but I say I lean into my leadership as a woman. So I want to be remembered as a woman who led but also loved.
Are you dating?
I am.
That's it. Because they were going to kill me if I didn't ask. On that note, we've come to the end of our program. I know that this was a wealth of knowledge for you. What's your story? What is it that you want to tell about your life? What's the legacy? And it's best you start now, because there isn't much time, but it's your life to live, your story to tell. Thanks so much for joining us. Until next time, have yourself a fantastic day. My name is Ruth Kulaisi.